Mr. Matthew Tai. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. This is really awesome. Thank you.
Now, you prefer me calling you Matt, right?
Yes, Matt.
And it's pronounced Tai.
Yes, Tai. Yep.
Tai. What
Yep.
is the origin of your last name, if you don't mind me asking?
So in Chinese, it's actually pronounced Cai.
Tai.
Yeah.
With
so
a
it's a
little
yeah.
thing.
It's a common Chinese last name. But when my parents they were raised in Vietnam, so they had that translated to Thai.
Okay.
Thai.
Just because it's easier for people.
I think so.
Rather
yeah.
than getting irritated when people don't say the t,
Yes.
that sound.
Yeah.
Do you still get people saying that? The t?
No, not really. They just either say Thai, like like with the TH.
Yes.
But or Thai, like Thailand. Yeah.
Okay, but the correct pronunciation is now the accepted, the way you and your family prefer it is
Thai.
Thai.
Yep.
Okay, and you say your parents grew up in Vietnam.
Yeah, they were raised there.
Okay,
And so we're Chinese, but I didn't really know what I was back then when I was little. I didn't know if I was Chinese or Vietnamese or Cambodian because my grandparents were from there too.
Okay. So they grew up in Vietnam as well.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
that's interesting.
My family has migrated around
Okay.
that region for years. I don't know the exact story because I don't really ask that. And they don't really know either. My parents don't really know either.
Okay.
But I'm ethnically Chinese.
Okay.
My family, ethnically Chinese. We speak a minor dialect called Diuqiu. Not many people speak that.
Is it like a very low percentage of people in China?
In China,
speak it?
yeah.
Like
yeah.
one region, I suppose?
Yeah, one city.
Okay.
So down in the southeast part of China.
Okay. The part that's closer to Vietnam.
Yes.
Okay.
So I only met a lot more of these people when I visited Singapore. And that's where my wife's from, Singapore.
Okay.
So it seems like a majority of DG people migrated to Singapore. So that was the first time that I met a lot of people.
With your background.
With my background, yeah, with that language. And I couldn't speak it that well. Yeah, anyway.
So growing up, what did you speak?
To my parents, I spoke Teochew.
Okay.
They didn't teach me Vietnamese. They know Vietnamese, they know Cantonese. They didn't teach me any of that.
But okay.
Yeah, so they only spoke to me and my siblings in Teochew, that minor dialect. I suspect is so that they can keep their conversation private in between them the two. Yeah.
It's very advantageous for immigrants to be able to talk in front of their children without their children understanding.
Yeah.
So they did that to you.
Oh yeah.
And they still do that to you, I suppose.
They still do. I've picked up a few words here and there, but
you're getting a little wiser. Like, y'all are talking about me right now, aren't you?
Yep.
That's cool. So growing up, it was really English. You grew up here in Houston.
Yes, I grew up here in Houston. So it was English is my first language.
Okay.
Not really my minor dialect. I'm not really fluent in it.
Okay.
But English. So I speak English and a little bit of my language with my parents. So it's kind of a combination of the two.
Do you speak any other languages?
So I know basic Mandarin.
Okay. Is that something you learned later on or growing up as well?
I learned later on, yes.
How'd that happen?
So I go to my home parish is Ascension Chinese Mission.
Okay.
And as I got older, I felt like I wanted to minister to that population somehow. So I took a few lessons here and there. And eventually I got proficient enough to take a test and where it labeled me as level 1 proficiency. So very basic level, but
it's something.
It's something, yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. So you went through the effort. Was it easier for you because of your parents' background, or is it completely different?
No, completely different.
Okay,
yes.
so it's not like those Nordic languages that are similar.
Right.
It's really a completely different language altogether.
Yeah, completely different. I never really learned how to read my language, so I only spoke it. But learning how to read Mandarin, that was an exercise on its own, like a memory exercise, because it's just almost like pictures, right?
Yes.
Just symbols, and It took a while to memorize.
You know what I just realized? Have you ever tried doing that, those DNA tests? Like 23andMe
I did.
and all of that?
I actually
You did?
Yes.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
that would be cool because of your background growing up. I mean, your parents growing up in Vietnam, but being of Chinese descent. Were you able to find anything interesting?
Not really. Every time they get more data, I think they keep changing the percentage of how Chinese I am.
Yes.
So at first I was probably like 90% Chinese, and then eventually it goes down to like 70-something% Chinese. Because that region, that southeast region of Asia, there's a lot of migration. So
yes,
they don't really have a, I guess, accurate data set for
they didn't have
what does it really mean?
Those political barriers that they have now. Yeah.
What does it really mean to be Vietnamese? What does it really mean to be Cambodian and all that?
Exactly.
Based on DNA. Yeah.
That's cool. Do you look in the mirror like, I'm getting less Chinese by the second now, based off of this app, right?
Yes.
That's cool. So the more and more data you get, have you been able to get in touch with any like distant relatives through the app or anything?
No, actually, no. They show like distant relatives, distant cousins, stuff like that, but I don't recognize anybody. No.
Maybe as more people take it, it'll build up more data.
That'd be pretty cool. That'd be a nice surprise.
You said in Singapore there was a larger population of people of your background. Is there a big population here in the United States, or is it very small?
I'm actually in a little Facebook group for my language, for my culture, but it seems like most of them are in California or New York or Canada around here, but not so much in Houston.
Just in the bigger population hubs because of the percentage, the chance of there being somebody from. Okay, that's cool.
And I'm not that fluent in it anyway. So.
Oh, and they're fluent.
Yeah, they're pretty
so when
good
they
at
chat at it,
it's like I have no idea what they're saying.
Google Translate. Help me out here.
There's an app for that, for my language.
Right? Yeah. That's awesome. So you are a former seminarian.
Yes.
And did you grow up with the idea that you were going to become a priest, or is it something that came into your mind later on?
No, actually. So I was baptized as a baby, received my first communion at the age of 10.
Okay.
And then after that, we stopped going to church. And I was really happy that we stopped going to church.
Really?
Yeah, it was really boring. Mass was so boring. Everything was boring. And plus it took me away from my Saturday cartoons. So that was I was really happy when we stopped going to church. It wasn't until after high school that I went to Ascension Chinese Mission. Only by a friend's invite. But no, I didn't think about seminary or priesthood until way later on. Like I was 25.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is there a reason why your family just stopped going to church? It just fell back in terms of priorities? You got caught up in life? Is that what happened, or was there?
So I later found out that they didn't like the priest asking for money all the time.
Okay.
That's their perception of church, was the priest kept asking them for money, asking the congregation for money. And
it rubbed them the wrong way.
Yeah.
Was it a growing parish at the time? Was it just very new?
No, it's been there. It's been there for a while. They
had
wanted
a lot of projects.
They wanted to grow a little bit, have a new building, I think.
Okay.
But I don't remember them asking for money, but I guess they remember it very well. And we're lower middle class, so to them and the people they knew, they were like, well, why they keep asking for money, and just like you said, rubbed them the wrong way.
Yeah.
And it was like, all right, we're done.
Okay. Yeah. Have your parents gone back to?
No, they have not. I think it's like a habit or guilt, but they go to Christmas mass.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So Christmas, Easter, those types of those types of masses. Yeah. Okay. And you said it happened in your 20s that you first decided to pursue the priesthood. How did that start? Where did the first thoughts come in?
So after college, I joined the Houston Police Department, And, I've always wanted to be a cop. So seminary, all that religion stuff, I don't know anything about. I only knew one priest when I came back to the Catholic Church.
Okay.
And, that was the pastor at Ascension, Father Z. So I didn't know any other priests. I didn't know what priests did. So I said, okay, well, all I know is that I want to be a police officer, and that's what I went for. It was probably like my third year as a police officer that I started having a realization that is this what I want to do for the rest of my life? My last year there, that year, I remember we did a lot of enforcing on homeless people. So we had to somehow clear the streets somehow or help them somehow.
Okay.
And the way that police officers do that is to enforce the law.
Yes.
And so I worked in downtown, and there were many Class C misdemeanors that we could approach homeless people for.
Okay.
So, like, for example, they couldn't sit down on the sidewalk from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. at night. So I was really zealous of doing that. So so my numbers were really good. I was enforcing that. I was taking homeless people to jail. I was writing them tickets. They can't pay for tickets, so it becomes warrants. And so I take them to jail.
Wow.
And then I remember at Mass.
So you said zealous, how like you brought them in like every day you brought in like a handful of people? Is that how?
Yeah.
So that was a lot of people you were bringing in.
Yeah. So it was a couple. It was like a handful every day. We go in. Well, me and a few others. We go in, write tickets. For minor minor law violations.
Things that probably you could have let slide. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Like if, for example, if someone in a suit, with a suitcase or something like that, they work there in downtown.
Yeah.
They were just sitting there on a sidewalk just to have a break.
Yeah.
We wouldn't bother them.
Yes.
But someone who had a bunch of stuff was, looked homeless, had stuff on the sidewalk, or just causing some sort of disturbance. I would come in, give them a ticket, or tell them to leave. They don't leave, arrest them. And I only enjoyed that because my numbers was going up. I liked the I was like a top producer or something like that.
Okay, yeah, you're like a number one salesman. That's what it felt like, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
It didn't really affect me until my last year there. When I went to Mass, I heard the gospel reading. Whatever you did to the least of my brothers, you did to me.
Oh.
And that really got to me, and I couldn't resolve that feeling that I was possibly arresting Jesus.
Yes.
I wasn't catechized well, so I didn't really understand.
So you couldn't wrap your head around it.
Yeah.
And you left Mass just
like
disturbed.
What am I doing? I wanted to help people.
Yes.
Is this how I'm helping people?
So you go into the police force thinking you want to help people, and then you find yourself putting people in jail that can't afford to pay the fines.
I did other stuff, to help others, but that was the one thing that really got to me: arresting homeless people and clearing the streets of their stuff. Like if we arrest homeless people, we have to take their stuff away because you can't just leave it there. That's their stuff.
Yeah. What do you do with it? You just toss it?
Well, the more valuable stuff, we can bring it, and we tag it to the property room so they can get it
when they get out.
But the shopping carts full of stuff, I called in like the dump truck to come in to just throw all that stuff away.
And this is stuff that they worked hard to collect.
That was their stuff.
And that got to you, huh?
Yeah.
And you said it really got to you the last year you were doing it. So how many years had you done it at this point when you heard that reading in Mass? that struck you?
So I was a police officer for about 4 years, less than 4 years.
Okay.
And I was at that station for majority of my time there. And so 3 years, somewhere around 2 or 3 years.
2 or 3 years, and that third year, that last year, it just got to you.
Yeah.
So you left Mass. Your head is all over the place. What happens next?
I was like, there's got to be something that I can do to at least make my soul feel better, make my heart feel better.
Yes.
But I just set that aside. We through my years as a police officer, I learned how to compartmentalize.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, well, I'll deal with this later.
Focus on the job.
Yeah, focus on the job. Deal with that later. So it wasn't until one of my coworkers invited me to, this is dumb, but invited me to train for the bike patrol.
Okay.
So I'm not very good at riding a bike. And my friends know this. They make fun of me about this a lot. But so during that training, I broke my arm.
Okay.
So I broke my left arm, and then I had a chance to read. So I was put on desk duty, and what I did was I just passed radios and car keys to other officers.
Okay, because you couldn't be on the street because of your arm.
Right.
Okay.
Right. I had a book. A friend gave me this book called In Good Company by Father James Martin. I don't read him anymore, but that book was about his journey to the priesthood.
Okay.
And it showed how he went from corporate office, from a corporate job, he was making a lot of money, to actually helping people, like helping the homeless, helping the those who didn't have much to find Christ. And that appealed to me. I don't know why. It just appealed to me at that moment. I read the whole book. I haven't done that in a long time.
It was the right book at the right time.
Yeah.
You were thinking about, do I want to do this the rest of my life?
Yeah.
Am I arresting Jesus? And now you've got this time on your hands because you're off the street and you're not compartmentalizing. And he gives you the book, and it's
So after that, I was still my arm I was still recovering. And
yes.
Then, I remember this author, Father James Martin. He's in New York, so I was like, well, I can just go to New York and visit him, right? So I did that. My arm still broken, so I had some time off.
Wow, that's awesome.
Flew to New York to visit some friends and to also track down this priest because I want to ask him some questions.
Wow.
I was like, the only church there that was Jesuit was St. Ignatius. So I went there, and it was on a Sunday. I didn't know how church offices worked back then. So
okay.
They were pretty much closed.
Yes.
But luckily that day they had a Jesuit gathering.
Okay.
Where all these different Jesuits were gathering to meet and talk, and I think it was a retreat at that moment. But I was able to talk to the receptionist, and I was like, "Hey, is there a priest on hand that I can talk to? Maybe Father James Martin?"
Yes.
And then she's like, "No, let me go back and see." So she brings out the vocation director for the New York province, Father Chuck Federico, really good friend of mine now. But we spent an hour talking. He taught me how to pray. He just asked me a bunch of questions about why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling as a police officer.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. It was just a really helpful moment. And when he did what he did for me, I was like, well, that's a profession. That's something you can do for others. Like you like I told him, Father Chuck, you're able to teach me how to pray. You're able to teach me how to really examine myself.
Yes.
And people can do this? Like I can choose this as a profession? He said, yeah. Come check out the Jesuits.
Wow.
So that's how I first started thinking about seminary. Was from that interaction with him, that meeting with him.
And then you come back to Houston and you look into it.
Yeah, come back to Houston, look into it. My arm's still recovering. I still had time to go around. I kept asking him questions like, Jesuits, you have to be sent anywhere in the world. And I was like, I don't know if I want to do that. I'd like to stay here in Houston.
Yes.
And then so I was like, well, okay, so there's priests in Houston. How do I get a hold of them? So I finally end up looking up the Archdiocese of Galveston, Houston.
Okay.
And that's where I met Father Dat. And he talked to me more about seminary, and I was like, okay, well. He told me to go to daily mass. I didn't know there was a daily mass. I thought mass was only offered on Sunday.
On Sunday, okay.
So like I was like a new Catholic again. I was like, I didn't know that there was daily mass.
Yes.
I didn't even know that.
Yes.
So I learned more, read more. Actually read a little bit of the Bible. I was really proud of myself then.
Not just what you hear in church.
Yeah,
but you actually opened the book up.
Yeah. And it just took less than a year. And then I told Father Dat, okay, I'm ready. You do the application. We did the application.
You're all in.
Yeah, all in. It was hard to leave the police department for me because we did a lot of training to get in.
Yes.
6 months in the academy and then 6 months.
It's an investment.
Yeah.
Yes.
Most people don't leave. They stay there till they retire. And that's what I thought I was going to do.
And did you go back onto the street, or were you still in a cast when you decided to call it quits as an officer?
No, I went back on the street, recovered, went back on the street.
And then how did that feel?
I was definitely a little different. Whenever I encountered a homeless person, I would try to talk to them now instead of just going, okay, where's your ID? What are you doing here? Get out of here.
Giving them the whole 9 degrees instead of that. Because you've had time now to process.
Yeah.
Without compartmentalizing.
Exactly. And I was like, well, what can I do as a police officer to help them?
Yes.
Can I take them to a homeless shelter? So I tried doing that. But if you don't have ID, you can't go in a homeless shelter.
Oh, I didn't know that.
If you're drunk, you can't go to a homeless shelter, of course.
Yeah.
If you're intoxicated or something like that, or belligerent, you can't go to a homeless shelter.
Wow.
So if you don't qualify for a homeless shelter, then the only place for a police officer to really enforce the law and do his job is to take you to jail.
Wow.
Over the recent years, they've reduced that effort.
Okay.
They've been trying. The police department, I think the city has been trying to help the homeless people a little bit more instead of just throwing them in jail.
Yeah.
Serve the time and then leave. And
there are other programs and stuff that they. Did you run into any of those people that you had, been a little more, for lack of a better word, cruel to? Did you run into any of them again?
There's a few that I can remember, but most part I don't remember their faces. Like I said, like I compartmentalized. I didn't see them as I didn't see them as human persons.
They were just another ticket, another person just getting in the way. Wow,
getting in the way and improving my stats.
Yes.
So that's why that last year was really really hard on me. Trying to resolve all that. Yeah.
Wow. Did any of the other officers say anything to you when you told them, "Hey, I can't do this," or did you just not tell them the reason why you were leaving? So
I told them that I wanted discern to be a priest. And then they're like, "You're Catholic?" So that I was surprised that they didn't know I was Catholic. So that was, I don't know. So that said something about me, about how I lived.
Okay.
I was like, wow, I didn't live as a Catholic, so they didn't know I was a Catholic. I didn't have a crucifix on me or anything like that.
Were you, did that embarrass you?
A little bit, yeah. But no, they thought I was crazy. I was like, "You're gonna leave this to go be a priest?
You do so well. Your numbers are so good. You're very quote unquote effective."
Yeah, and I work so well with others. Even my lieutenant, she was like, "You want to be like my crazy sister?" Because her sister's a professor at St. Mary's.
Okay.
Just like, "You want to be like her?" Learning about theology and stuff like that. Wow. Didn't expect that.
They all thought you were crazy.
They all thought I was just throwing away my life, like throwing away my career that I've worked hard for.
Because you had invested a lot of time and effort into becoming a police officer, and you were very good at it.
Yeah.
You were effective, and now you're just gonna.
The academy was so hard. Not the books part, but the learning how to shoot. I never shot a gun before that. Learning how to drive tactically. Like I remember the driving course was like, we had to. The hardest one for me was reversing through a course.
Oh,
yeah.
So you're practically a stunt driver, yes.
Pretty much, yeah. And that was hard. That was very difficult. Learning how to fight, also. So shooting, fighting, driving.
Wow.
Those were very difficult. And then it got even more challenging 6 months after the academy. So you're put on a probation period.
Okay.
Where you're with a trainer as a police officer. So you're on a street with a trainer. They take you around to all the calls. You try to do your best and whatever you can. And the trainer kind of steps in whenever you do something wrong. Or
okay.
We're not safe enough.
And
then there's an evaluation after that.
Yes.
All that was just insanely difficult.
Yeah, because somebody's looking over your shoulder the entire time.
Yeah.
And you're learning on the job in these crucial situations.
Yeah. They evaluate how you responded to citizens. They responded how you drove, even little things like how you park. Like if you're aware of your surroundings.
Oh, they nitpick, huh?
Yeah, right. Nitpick. And
did you ever have to use your weapon?
I had to take it out to aim it at people, just to be safe. But
yes.
I never had to shoot anyone. So thank God I never had to kill anyone. I don't think.
Okay, so you never had to fire your weapon.
Yes, never had to fire.
But any other hand to hand?
Hand to hand, yep.
You had to do
a lot of dragging people, a lot of
wow,
just kind of basic wrestling here and there. But I had people helping me. Whenever you call on the radio, people would help. Other officers would come and help. But yeah, it was. So for the most part, being a police officer was mostly writing reports. So that
okay.
Dealing with citizens, dealing with other things. But my last year there at the police department was enforcing the law on homeless people. So that.
Did you ever run into any of those difficult situations like the George Floyd type situation?
It wasn't that prevalent when I was going through the police department. The biggest, I guess, protest was Occupy Wall Street.
Okay.
Yeah.
At the time, yes.
Yeah, at the time, yeah.
But you weren't personally involved in any of those types of situations where it was kind of borderline. Oh, I don't know if what we're doing here is.
Oh no.
Okay.
Yeah, it was all by the books, but it was. I don't know if it was morally acceptable.
It's legally right,
but
morally, ethically, it might not necessarily be the right thing to do, huh?
Yeah, there's a joke that you can't breathe in Houston without getting a ticket. So those Class C misdemeanors, man, there is a huge list. Like, you can arrest someone. You can arrest someone simply for having low air in their tires. Like little things like that. If they can't pay for the ticket, of course.
Like you said, if they're just sitting on a park bench resting for a second, you can give them a ticket.
If they lay down on the sidewalk, if they put their stuff on the sidewalk.
Wow.
Little things. So you could give them a ticket and it becomes warrants.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. It was a good tactic. That way you can approach the suspect, and really see what's going on.
See if there's anything else.
Yes.
Okay.
But most of the time when I was enforcing the homeless population, it was a minor infractions. But for the most part, you have to. I can see the practical aspect of it is, you don't want just dirty streets and dirty sidewalks.
Yes.
You got corporate buildings, you got tourists.
Yes.
And so you do your best to control that.
Yeah, and you don't want somebody masquerading as a homeless person putting a bomb on the street or something like that.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. So you said Occupy Wall Street. What was your experience with that? There were protests in Houston and you had to respond?
Yeah, so I was also part of a what's it called? Special response group.
Okay.
And that group deals with protests and riots. So we had riot gear. We were ready just in case they got out of hand. But eventually that movement kind of died off. They started just occupying the city hall park.
Okay.
They were just there camping and everything. And then the movement kind of died down a little bit. And then after that, it was just homeless people with tents.
Okay.
And then at one point, we were all like called up and said, "Okay, it's time to kind of just
These
get them out."
They're not protesters anymore.
Yeah, time to get them out.
Okay.
So we came in. It was methodical. It wasn't cruel. It was very efficient.
Okay.
There was not that many incidents as it is now. It's very controversial now.
Yes.
With police interaction and all that stuff. But back then, I didn't deal with.
So you didn't see anything that was questionable. You didn't see anything that, I mean, in terms of questionable in terms of police violence or anything like that.
Yeah, not with my career, I guess. Not with the people I was with.
Do you think you were chosen for that task force or that response unit, because of your history of having good numbers?
No, actually, if an officer is stationed at that downtown station, they had to go into that special response group. They had to learn how to control riots.
Okay, so they didn't look at you and say, "Hey, this guy."
No, I'm not that good. No. No, yeah, we had to go through the riot training. It was interesting because they actually it was like a week-long program, and we had to learn how to use a baton. We had to learn how to put on our helmets for a riot
with the
gear,
shield and everything.
The riot gear, the shield.
Wow.
Yep. And then we got a little taste of tear gas.
Oof.
So that wasn't fun. Yeah, I remember my eyes were watery. All the pores in my skin were on fire. My nose was running.
Wow.
So that was part of the training to kind of understand how it feels.
Yeah, to kind of desensitize you, I suppose, huh? Because you're going to be in the vicinity of tear gas.
Yeah.
If ever. Wow. So you decide to leave the police force. What happens there? Because you're leaving your job.
Yeah.
And you're deciding to go into the seminary. So do you go straight into the seminary from the police force?
Yep, straight in. I left in June of 2012. I entered seminary in August that same year, 2 months later. Started at Holy Trinity Seminary in Dallas.
Okay.
Spent the whole year there. It was challenging.
So just 1 year?
My first year there.
Okay.
I've never learned philosophy. I didn't know philosophy at all. Philosophy was so hard, so foreign. So as pre-theologians, we already had an undergraduate degree. So we just go in and get some philosophy credits.
Yes.
And
what was your degree in?
Criminal justice.
Okay.
Yeah. So for my first semester, I remember taking Introduction to Philosophy, like those introductory courses. And then in the same semester, an hour later, we get like an advanced philosophy course. So at one course, Introduction to Philosophy is like, okay, read this book, read it, Republic. It was like one of the first books that you had to read.
Okay.
And then the next hour, a different class, it's like, oh, they assume that you've already read it. So they're talking about it.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, okay, well, I didn't read it yet. That was my first class.
It was an hour ago.
Yeah, it was an hour ago. And so it was challenging. It was like a catch up. And I remember in those classrooms, they had like really intelligent students because they've done philosophy before. They're asking all these really good questions. Like, what are they asking? What are they talking about?
So you felt like you were behind.
Yeah, very behind. I felt very behind. But it was helpful. It was nice that other seminarians we would help each other out, and that's what I really liked about the seminary. It was like this brotherhood, this camaraderie. What I experienced in the police department, I also experienced in the seminary. It was this camaraderie. Everybody helps each other out.
Okay, so where did you go to college for your for your bachelor's degree in criminal justice?
I went to University of Houston downtown.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're really a Houston
yes,
person.
Yes. Never left here until my first year of seminary. I went to Dallas. So
that was your first experience being like out of town, huh?
Yes, being away from Houston. Yeah.
So you stayed with I'm guessing you stayed with your family while you were in college, or did you dorm?
Yes, I stayed with my family. Yes. Yeah. I commuted every 4 days out of the week. Yeah. Commuted to downtown, all the way from Southwest Houston.
So this was your first real experience being away from home.
Yes.
How was that first year as well? Being lost with the philosophy subjects, and was it tough that way as well, being far from home, or was it fun being on your own?
It was actually fun. Because I never had a college experience where you would live in a dorm. And,
yes.
And go to classes and go to classes from the dorm, and then be actually involved with the student life. I never experienced that, and that was really nice. I got to know other seminarians, where they came from, made some really good friends. And the classes were just across the hill at University of Dallas. They had other student events, stuff like that we could be involved in. And for the most part, yeah, it was a college experience for me. My first college experience away from home.
Was Father David Michael with you?
Yes, Father David Michael was with me. Father Ricardo Areola, I think you had him on your show.
Yes.
So they were in my class. And
so you were all a group of seminarians just taking classes, hanging out.
Yes, yeah.
And all that in Dallas.
Yes, in Dallas, yeah. So I was there for 2 semesters, a whole year.
Okay.
But my last semester there, I was having difficulty with discernment.
Okay.
Is this really what I want to do? Because after the first semester at University of Dallas at Holy Trinity Seminary, my class, we started out with 16 people, 16 guys from all different dioceses. And then after that first semester, 8 of them, half of the class discerned out.
Oh, wow.
So
a pretty big percentage of guys that you knew and had gotten close to were just gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So did it make you think, oh, maybe this isn't right for me either, huh?
I was like, they didn't say anything because I only found out when I came back in January.
Oh, they just up and disappeared.
And I was like, did I not get the message?
Wow.
What happened? Am I missing something? So that jarred me a little bit. I remember talking to Father Rick about this at that time. I was like, what is happening? Why did everyone just leave? Did we not get the message? What's going on here? So that stuck in my head. And also, my parents didn't want me to be in the seminary either. They didn't want me being a priest.
Oh, because they hadn't been going to church. They had that, that bad taste in their mouth from the parish that they felt was asking for too much money.
Yeah. Yeah. And they didn't want me being celibate. So they had their ideas of what priests were.
Do you have brothers and sisters?
Yes, I have 2 sisters and 1 brother. I'm the oldest.
Okay.
So I'm the oldest son.
Okay.
And they expect me, they never told me this, but I've always got that from them. They expected me to be with them. When they get older, to take care of them. Yeah.
As the eldest son, it was kind of understood that was your responsibility.
Yeah. So my mom, especially, she thought I was going to be a priest and just go off to a different side of the world.
And they'd never see you again.
Never see me again. Yeah, and I told her, no, this is diocesan priesthood. This is, within the city limits. It didn't help that I was going to Dallas, for the first year. But,
because there's that detachment.
Yeah. And it was a good detachment for me, at least, for my discernment. So it'd be independent from wherever they feel, wherever their opinions were. Mm-hmm. But that guilt was still around.
Yes.
That guilt of leaving my family, of
eldest son.
Being the eldest son.
Responsibilities.
Right. And so my second semester there at UD, these thoughts really came into my mind a lot more, primarily because of those guys that discerned out.
Yes.
It really hit me.
Do you think it would have been easier for you if you weren't the eldest son, if you were like the younger son? Do you think that your parents wouldn't have had that expectation as much?
I'm not sure. I don't know. But I know that looking back, it was mostly in my head.
Okay.
Yeah, like
so it's not like your cultural background and the
a
parents.
little bit of cultural background, but it was mostly in my head, my interpretation of it, my perception of
Okay.
their need. Like I thought they needed me a lot more than they actually do. And so I discerned out actually after that first year.
Okay.
And then I tried going back to the police department.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah. This was really, I kind of regret doing that. Because what happened was, when I left in good standing.
Yes.
They let me keep my badge. So they let me keep my police badge.
Okay.
So I can put it on a wall or something like that.
Yes.
And then when I tried to go back, I was able to go back through interviews, through qualification again, qualifying with my firearm, qualifying with the physical aspects of like running a track or something like that. And then I got back, and then within a month, I had anxiety.
Wow.
It was the weirdest thing. Like I put on that uniform, and then I just felt something wrong. It was like, it was not right. And then I was back on the street, and going home. I remember just going home and just not being able to eat, not being able to sleep.
Wow.
And then so I was like, okay, well, this is definitely not me anymore.
Because your perspective has completely changed.
Yeah. I learned a lot about my religion. Learned about Catholic faith.
And philosophy.
Philosophy. My way of thinking was different because philosophy really helped shape how I think.
Wow.
Made me think clearer. My spiritual life was a lot better, more rich. So
yeah, so you would approach these situations and you'd process them a lot differently because of the way you were trained in your philosophy and your theology classes. You'd look at it in a completely different way, huh?
Yeah, you can imagine a police officer, when you call them, it's like waking up a dragon, in a sense. Like, they're there to do something.
Take action.
Do something and go. They don't want a little conversation or anything. Just there, do your thing, get out and go. But in the seminary, it was like to help someone. You be with them, journey with them, talk, have a great conversation, and really talk about Christ, talk about being Catholic, talk about how to pray, all these beautiful things.
And that's not to say that it's not good that there's,
Sure. Yes.
For a cop, sometimes you need that.
Right.
You need somebody who just takes action, without stopping too much to process and think and analyze. And
right.
Right.
So, after that month, I left the police department again. And
what did they say to you then when you left again?
They're like, "Are you sure? Like, what are you doing?
Are we going to see you again in another year?"
And it's like, "This is your last time. No, you're not coming back anymore."
Yeah.
That was it. And then
did they notice something different from you while you were on the streets?
It was a different station that I was stationed at. So they didn't know me at all.
Okay. All they knew was that you left and you came back.
Yep. That's all they know. And I even asked like a silly question. I was like, "Can I have the badge again?" When I left, and I was like, they were like, "No, absolutely not. You're leaving in just a month. Absolutely not."
Oh,
so that
it was the same badge.
Same badge, yep.
And so no souvenir.
Yep, no souvenir taken back. Yeah. And looking back, it was a good thing because then I didn't have this thing distracting me
and reminding you.
Yeah, I can move on. I can burn that bridge. I can move on instead of saying, "What if?" or "Should I have done this? Should I do that?" And it was really good detachment, a lesson on detachment.
So let's go back to you discerning out.
Okay.
How did that process go?
So I got to visit with my spiritual director. We have regular visits with them at the seminary. And I just told him like what I just shared with you, like all those guys discerned out.
Yeah.
What is happening? What is going on? I thought we had a good thing going.
Yes.
And I told him, my prayer life just kind of feels weird. I'm just distracted a lot now. I can't really focus on the studies. I'm always asking, what if?
Okay.
Should I have done that?
Okay.
Should I go back to the police department because it was awesome there?
And you were good at what you did.
I was good at what I did. But with those sessions with the spiritual director, we determined, well, I was romanticizing the past. But it didn't click until after I got back into the police department and then left. And
you actually saw what the past looked like.
Yeah, saw it with as it truly was. I was happy. I liked it, but I wasn't at peace. I wasn't joyful. It wasn't fulfilling.
Okay. So you talked to your spiritual director, and did they come to the determination, the two of you, that okay, let's?
I came to that determination. Mostly, it was mostly me.
Okay.
I didn't know at the time that I was romanticizing the past.
Okay.
So I was just fixated at just going backwards, because I was like, I could be a better cop this time, with the prayer life, knowing my faith.
I can help these homeless people.
Yeah, I can help people more intimately now.
So your spiritual director, did they tell you, I'm not sure if this is a good idea?
Yeah, he warned me.
And you just wouldn't listen?
He warned me. I wouldn't listen. The rector, same thing. He was like, are you sure, Matt? I mean, stay another year. I was like, nah.
And you were set already?
Yeah, I was already set.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how was that with the other seminarians at the time? Father David Michael, Father Rick, the guys that you'd come to bond with that were still sticking around.
They were strong in the discernment. They were strong. They were settled in the seminary at that point, from what they told me. So for me, I felt a little bad. I was like, I'm leaving you guys.
Okay, so you did talk to them. You weren't one of those that disappeared.
No, I didn't disappear. No, I had a good conversation with Rick, and I teared up a little bit. I was like, I don't want to leave you guys, but I just feel like I'm too distracted at my past, or distracted at what I think I want. And so I left after having a good conversation with them and giving them a little warning that I would leave at the end of the semester.
That must have been tough, because you've gone through this together.
Yeah,
it's intense. From from the past guests that we've had, it's an experience. You're brothers in arms.
Yes,
going through something together, something very difficult, something challenging. You're growing together.
Yeah,
and then you're leaving them.
Yeah, and that's what I liked about the seminary. It was the first time I ever really felt a sense of belonging,
camaraderie, brotherhood.
Yeah. Like everybody had the same goal. We're all going through these challenges for the same goal.
Yes,
priesthood or discerning where our vocation is. Right.
Like a military unit.
Yeah. It was. And then, so I'm out of the seminary, and then I still had this tendency of looking back.
So did you think of going back to the seminary?
And that's exactly what I did.
You went back.
I went back.
So who did you talk to? You talked to Father Dad again?
I talked to Father Dad. He took me to a come and see in Louisiana.
Okay.
St. Joseph's, I think. St. Joseph's Seminary.
And what did he say to you when you first called him? Did he say, I knew you'd be back? Or
yeah, he knew. He knew. He knew at least I would call him again. And then it was a transition for him too. It was Father Dad was fixing to leave that.
So this was near the end of his tenure as a vocation director.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And then Father TJ came in. So by the time I was done with my paperwork again and my interviews again to get back into the seminary, Father Dad was gone, and Father TJ came in.
Okay. And how long was this after you left the seminary? Was this? It
was a year.
So a whole year.
Yeah, a whole year.
Okay.
Yeah, a whole year outside of seminary. So during that time when I was out of the seminary, I was, went to the police department, became a police officer again, left again.
Okay.
And then I was able to find work luckily a parishioner at my home parish offered me a job at their company.
Okay.
So it was nice. And then I just felt like I messed up in my discernment. Like I didn't give it a good shot.
You didn't give it your
all.
whole effort. Yeah.
I was too distracted with the past. I was not 100% there.
Okay.
And then so Father Dad and Father TJ in their transition, they determined that I'd be better off at St. Mary's Seminary in Houston.
Okay, rather than going out of town.
Rather than going back to Dallas.
What did your parents say? Did they say, "Oh, look at this guy, he's flip-flopping"?
Yeah. They're like, "What are you doing? What are you doing with your life? You want to do this? You want to do that?
You're losing focus.
Yeah.
Choose one thing and stick with it." Is that pretty much what they said?
Choose one thing as long as it's not the priesthood.
Oh.
Choose one thing as long as you're not going back to the seminary.
Wow.
Yeah, it made them really mad and really sad that I was going back to the seminary too.
They're probably thinking to themselves, "This is our oldest son. This is the guy that's going to take care of us, and he can't decide what he wants to do."
Yeah. But thankfully, God's providence, my niece was born from one of my sisters.
Okay.
My niece was born as I was discerning back into the seminary.
Okay.
And so they were distracted with the little baby.
Of course. So, first grandchild, right?
Yes, first grandchild.
That's all that it's about for the grandparents.
Yes. So they were distracted. So I was able to detach myself a little bit more.
Okay.
And really focus 100% at St. Mary's Seminary.
Okay.
And I loved it there. I saw the guys that I saw back in Dallas. They transitioned into St. Mary's for their theology.
Because they finished their degree there, and they came here for the next degree, huh?
Yep.
Oh, because they were like you. They already had college degrees.
Yes.
So they were just there for 2 years, and then they'd come back here.
Yes.
So that's a nice homecoming, huh?
Yes.
It's a reunion.
Yes.
Hey, I'm back.
So they're like, "Hey, what's up?" Hey, I was like, "Oh, cool." I saw familiar faces.
That's fantastic.
So it wasn't like just starting fresh all over again. I saw familiar faces. I knew them. They knew me.
Yes.
So I had a better sense of belonging at that second go.
Yes.
So, and by this time I still had to complete my philosophy part of it, my philosophy credits. So I went to St. Thomas for that. Then I learned, then I went to theology classes.
Okay. Did you complete a degree?
So I was there 2.5 years. So I started pre-theologian 1.
Okay.
Well, at St. Mary's I was pre-theologian 2, and then I went up to second theology.
Okay.
And at that point I was taking a lot of theology classes with the guys. Father David Michael and Father Rick at that time, they're in a pastoral year, so I didn't really get to see them that often.
Okay. But they were at their parishes.
Yes, they were at their parishes, and I made other seminarian friends. So it was
okay.
in my class, because I changed classes at that point when I came back. They were a year ahead of me, and I was a year behind. And I was really involved with the seminary life. I was giving it my 100%. And then my last year there, my last semester there, it was a weird feeling in my spiritual life. I felt, like when you're fixing up a puzzle.
Yes.
And there's like this one piece that barely fits, but you're trying to jam it in to make sure it fits.
Uh-huh.
That was me. I was trying to just jam myself into
the priesthood. Okay.
And I just felt like I didn't really belong. I was like, this must be, during my prayers, I was like, this must be like some sort of distraction. I must be like afraid of commitment. And I was afraid of commitment.
Okay.
A little bit. And then, so this pattern starts all over again.
Okay.
Talking to my spiritual director, like,
here we are again.
Here we go again. This is a different spiritual director, Father Bruni.
Uh-huh.
And He's like, Matt, you got to give it another semester. Come on, give it another year.
Yeah.
And all over again, I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I can do this. I just feel like I shouldn't continue.
And he's probably saying to you, you don't want this to happen all over again, and you're going to come back again. And
But this time, I wasn't romanticizing the past.
Uh-huh.
I was looking to the future.
Uh-huh.
I was like, I got to do something else.
Did the idea of celibacy, was that weighing on you? Because I know a lot of seminarians, that's a big, this big point, big thing that they have to wrestle with. Celibacy.
Yeah, celibacy. Definitely weighed on me. Mostly the fear of being alone.
Okay.
And the funny thing was, after I left the seminary that second time, I felt more alone than I ever felt before. So being in the seminary, I didn't feel alone, but it was this fear of being alone.
Okay.
That really got to me. And then when I did leave the seminary that second time, I was more alone than ever before. And I wasn't celibate anymore. I was left the seminary.
You're going out.
I'm gonna go out, and I don't have to.
The door was open for dating and all of that.
Right.
Did you date during that 1 year that you went back to, the private sector after?
No, I did not. No,
you didn't?
No.
So there was that wasn't one of those things that, hey, I can date now.
No, it wasn't. Yeah, that was a surprising thing. I was more focused on what I need to do for my life.
Career driven.
Yeah.
Okay.
What I got to do. Every time I left the seminary or left something that I enjoyed, I lost a sense of identity.
Okay.
And there was this sense of grief that I had to process.
Yes.
What they say is like men, if they leave their occupation, they tie their occupation with their identity, right?
Yes.
And so I tied my occupation with my identity.
You're no longer Matt the police officer. You're no longer Matt the seminarian.
Yeah.
Like, who am I?
Who am I? Yeah.
I had that same experience when I left teaching for a while. Like, what am I doing now? Who am I? This was my focus. I was, when you introduce yourself to people, hey, what do you do?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
You don't know how to answer.
Yeah.
What do I do? What am I?
And it was almost shameful, almost like.
Yes.
Like, what do you do for a living?
I'm kind of in between.
I just left seminary again. You left seminary again? What are you doing?
So the second time that you left seminary, was this it?
That was it.
And did you know that this was it?
No, part of me was still a little bit open to going back.
And how was their reaction to you different? Was it the same thing? Oh, you're probably going to be back? Or did they feel like this was it for you?
Well,
your spiritual director and director.
They were still trying to encourage me to go back.
Okay.
My spiritual director, he was open, like he was still objective.
Okay.
As much as he could be, but he kept saying, "Well, come back, check it out. It's no shame coming back a third time."
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh,
just keep the door open, in case you want." Yeah.
Yeah. Right off the bat, right when I left the second time, I joined a nonprofit. I got a job at a nonprofit to work in their family violence division, to counsel or to help out victims of family violence find a place to live and all that stuff. And this anxiety came back.
The same anxiety that you had was when you went back to being a police officer.
Yeah, same anxiety. I was like, "What are you telling me, God? What is going on? Like, why can't I hold a job? What is happening?" So I eventually quit that job too. So at this moment, like I'm talking to you about identity, I'm like so confused.
Yeah.
Who am I? What am I doing with my life?
Is there something wrong with me?
Yes. Yeah. So I even went to a counselor just to talk, figure out, is there something wrong?
Yes.
With my my mind or something.
What did your parents say?
They were supportive as long as I was out of the seminary. They were supportive.
Okay, so they were fine with what you did.
Yeah.
And what did the counselor say?
She was like, "You need some time to think about your life."
Okay.
So because bouncing around after the police department, I bounced right into the seminary.
Yes.
After seminary, I went into a job that helped. That helped, but
it paid the bills.
That paid the bills, yeah. But I was jumping too quickly.
It got you by, but there was no trajectory of your career.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I jumped back into the seminary the second time. And then after leaving, I jumped into that nonprofit job.
Okay.
So my spiritual director, he still talks to me. He still talked to me back then. And he was like, okay, well, time to grieve. He gave me a great book to read. It was called Ruthless Trust, Trusting in God, like absolutely with your life and how to do that. So
is that the name of the book?
Ruthless Trust, yes.
Ruthless Trust.
Yeah.
Do you know the name of the author?
Brennan Manning, I think.
Okay.
But it was a really good book because he talks about how we utilize how we should utilize our wounds, our flaws, and in order to use them to help other people. So like the wounds of Christ saved the world. So kind of like the wounds of ourselves kind of can help other people.
Yes.
You don't know how you help, but somehow God's working through you.
Yes.
So that book really helped. But Father Rooney, he just told me, you gotta take a break. You gotta grieve. You gotta grieve your loss of identity. So I spent like 4 months just figuring out what to do. Like
you read this book and
processed
it and
just had 4 months time off. No work, nothing. I felt really bad, but it was something I had to do.
You were searching for yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was tough. Leaving seminary was tough. Not many people know that, I guess. That when a man discerns out.
Is it traumatic?
Minor, I guess, but there's a grieving process that must take place.
Okay.
For every guy that discerns out. Yeah, some discern out and they fall off, the deep end, in a negative way, depression, all this other stuff.
Yeah, because you come out and what am I going to do with my life?
Yeah. Or they're dismissed. Worse, they're dismissed out of the seminary. So,
did you know any guys that were dismissed out of the seminary?
Yeah.
What are the reasons why somebody would be dismissed out of seminary?
It's a maturity level. It's the biggest reason.
Really?
So probably not understanding their own boundaries.
Okay. That must be a very difficult thing to like embarrassing of sorts to be asked to leave the seminary, huh?
Yeah. So that's probably more traumatizing than just leaving on your own.
Yes.
But yeah, thankfully I left on my own, but I still had to process through all that experience, through all those years that I've been at the seminary. What I learned.
What was your conversation with the friends that you had made, the fellow seminarians that were on their way to the priesthood?
Well, I kept asking them before I left, especially. I asked them like, "How are you still so sure?" Like I was never sure.
Okay.
But how are you guys so sure? And they would always tell me like, "No, I'm not that sure. I'm just gonna keep going every year by year until
just try to power through."
Yeah, power through. Or I know Rick. He was like, "I want to be here. I know that." I was like, "How do you do that? How do you know?"
So it's funny how you call him Rick because you have that relationship from before he became, a priest.
Yeah, I need to stop doing that. I need to call him Father Rick.
Well, that's that kind of bond that you have, being a seminarian.
Yeah. He was actually a role model for me to go back to the seminary because he was very encouraging, very very pastoral even then. So it was really helpful to have another brother to look up to and then to discern with.
So you decide to leave this time, and you tell them that you're leaving, and At what point do you know that this is it for good?
So I learned that I was anxious at those different jobs because they weren't meant for me.
Okay.
It was a weird way of God telling me to go, like this violent way of telling me to go, like go do something else. And what that something else was parish ministry. I never considered parish ministry as a layperson. I was like, yeah, that's for the priest. That's for what priests do, and that's what seminarians do.
Yes.
I don't need to be involved in that. You know, I can volunteer. Yeah, that's fine. But as a career, really? So so my way of figuring out if that was for me was there was a part-time youth ministry job that was offered at St. Matthias in Magnolia, and I was like, well, part-time, okay, I could do that. So that way I can kind of ease myself in, because I was still scared about my anxiety. I was like, okay, hopefully it doesn't like spur up again out of nowhere.
So just test it out a little bit.
Yeah, just test it out a little bit. So I went there and I had fun. I was like, this is a job. This can be a career.
They're paying me to do this?
Yeah, they're paying me to do this, to talk with kids, to mentor them, to do these little retreats and events with them. I was like, no way this can be a career.
And so is this what you've been searching for all along? Is that what you felt? This is what I've been wanting to do?
Yeah.
Ever since you were a cop?
Yeah, ever since I was a cop, in the seminary too, when we got to go visit churches, we get to minister a little bit. And that was always fun. I always enjoyed it. And then when I finally got to go actually do that for real, and not feel anxiety, feel like I'm doing something right.
Yes.
Feel like this is part of God's will.
Yes.
I was like, no way. I'm gonna work for a parish. No way. So I was there for a year until I was like, okay, well, I'm ready for full time then. Let's do something full time.
Yeah.
And then Father Christian at
found your thing. You're like,
yeah,
let's go all in now.
So Father Christian at St. Edward offered me a job at St. Edward to coordinate the liturgy. And I've been there since 3 years now, and I love it. So all this time, God surprises me. Like He's the God for me. He's the God of surprises. Like every time I think I got something, I know I got it. It fails. Like I thought, okay, I'm gonna leave a seminary. I know what to do now. Fails. I'm gonna go to that nonprofit. That's probably what I want to do. Fails. Going back to the police department, same thing. Failed.
Go back to the seminary again.
Yeah, didn't work out. But I loved seminary. I mean, I learned a lot. But then these two jobs came out of nowhere: part-time youth ministry and then full-time coordinating liturgy.
Do you feel like God was telling you, hey, this is what I've been trying to nudge you into doing all along? And you just couldn't get the picture.
Yeah. So I am so thankful for all the troubles that I've gone through.
So you don't regret the whole discernment process at all?
I don't.
Even though it was difficult going in and out, the embarrassment of coming back to all of that, completely worth it.
All worth it. At the time, I didn't think it was worth it. At the time, I was just like, oh, God, what are you doing? Why am I feeling this? What is happening? Like, I remember that second when I was in the seminary the second time here at St. Mary's. Oh, I spent a lot of time in that chapel. Beautiful chapel for one thing, but like it was such a prayerful experience there. And I remember many times I was like, "Why, God? What are you doing? Like, why am I feeling like I don't belong now? Like, I thought you wanted me to be a priest, be your priest. So what is happening?"
I can imagine many tears were shed in that chapel.
Oh yeah. Me and other guys too. All the other guys. That place is so sacred for priests and for people who discerned out. For everybody that walked in there. I have a lot of good memories from St. Mary's Seminary, even from Holy Trinity Seminary. It's just the brothers that I've got to know. Now they're priests, or they're married now, or something.
What did it feel like watching them become priests?
So I remember for Father Rick's ordination to the diaconate. After his ordination, I came up to him and I was like, "You made it!" And just gave him a big hug. I was like, "You made it!" And he was like, "Yeah, I made it."
Wow!
It was just this sigh of relief, like going through all that. Like I understood their journey, and I had the privilege of joining them in that and kind of seeing what they went through those early years. And
I could imagine you had some private conversations with them regarding your discernment and your difficulties.
Yeah. And we shared with each other our difficulties. But yeah, to finally see him at his ordination and to finally get up there and say, "You made it." Like, we knew like all that pain, all that trouble, all those classes that were really difficult, or just a difficult, prayer life, figuring out, discerning. It's just to see them get ordained. It's like, made it.
You have a special bond with them.
Yeah.
It's kind of like seeing somebody in your military unit that you were in the mud with get a distinguished medal of some sort, like the Medal of Honor or something. That's probably what it's like, huh?
Yeah. So it's beautiful to see that. And
then when they became priests, what was that like? Were you there at their ordination?
I don't think so. No, I did. I caught the end because I couldn't find parking and I was really late. I was really late. I couldn't find parking, and it was downtown. It was just so hard to find parking there. But
because all the relatives and friends that are showing up. This is not a pandemic ordination.
It was like 2019, so it was just before the pandemic. But for the pandemic one, I couldn't go to the class that I was closer to.
Because it was
it was
locked
that was my year. That was if I stayed, I would have been ordained in 2020
during the pandemic.
Yeah, during the pandemic.
And that was your group, and
and I didn't get to go.
Was it live streamed?
It was live streamed, so I got to see parts of it. When I saw it, I was like, "Wow, I could have been next to him."
You could be there, lying
so
prostrate.
Weird. I was like, "That is so weird," but
you were robbed of the experience of hugging them afterwards and congratulating them. And
I got to go to Father Took's little reception, so I got to say my congratulations there. But I didn't get to go to their mass. To the ordination mass. So
that's crazy. You would have been one of those pandemic ordinated priests or ordained priests. Excuse me.
I would have. It was, but when I looked at that time when I was looking through, when I was looking at that live stream, I was like, "Wow, I'm good. I'm good here. This is meant to be. This is meant to be."
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So you didn't have any regret this time.
Yeah.
You weren't looking back.
Right. I wasn't looking back. That romanticizing thing, that tendency to romanticize the past has been controlled in a sense through discipline and through prayer life. And I was dating my wife at that point. Yeah. So I got married during the pandemic too. I got married in December of last year. And
so you're still, newlywed.
Yeah, 6 months.
Congratulations.
Thank you. 6 months. And it's been awesome. And I thank God every day for all that. I guess all that pain and all that confusion and loss of identity, all that grief paid off. I'm a better man for it. I'm more patient. And I don't regret it. It's just, it kind of hurts when I think back, but it's just like, just looking back, I'm like, it had to happen.
It made you who you are.
Yeah.
It got you to where you are.
Yeah.
Did any one of your priest friends do your wedding?
Yeah, Father Rick, actually.
Father Rick did your wedding.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
fantastic.
yeah.
Which parish did you do it at?
So we got married at St. Edward, and my spiritual director was there. Father Rooney was there too. So it was, and the pastor and my Father Christian, Father Chris, Father Thomas, the associate pastor there, associate priest over there at St. Edward.
That's a unique experience.
Yeah, and the newly ordained priest, Father Wayne.
Yes.
Yeah, he was a deacon at my wedding. So
wow.
And at Viet, he's a seminarian now.
Uh-huh.
But he was there at my wedding, so it was
that
nice.
experience of Father Rick, who you'd been in the seminary with, doing your wedding. It must have been a little surreal, huh?
Yeah.
For him and for you. Because you had watched his ordination, thinking that could have been me, and he's probably thinking the same thing. If I discerned out, I could be in his shoes.
It was a privilege for me to just walk with him in the seminary.
Yes.
And then it was just awesome for him to be able to celebrate my wedding.
And that bond that you have, you'll forever have that bond.
Yeah.
With him and with the other seminaries that you walked with and shared that time with.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So looking ahead, you see yourself where you are now for, in your current capacity for the foreseeable future?
For the foreseeable future, until God calls me elsewhere.
And gives you another nudge and another hint.
Yeah. I've learned to trust him. Wherever he nudges me, no matter how embarrassing, I guess, no matter how I might think it's shameful or whatever, he's always got my back. And that's what I've learned. He always had my six when I was at the police department. Because there were some dicey moments, but he was always there.
Really?
Yeah.
Like what type of dicey moments?
Like at night, stopping drunk drivers and dragging them out of their car, and they're kind of like resistant and fighting and stuff like that. And I never had to shoot someone. I thank God for that.
Right. Yeah.
But he was there in the seminary all my time there.
That's amazing, that the road that you've been through, how difficult it's been, having to deal with anxiety, having to deal with uncertainty, embarrassment of changing, and then, of course, the added obstacle of your parents not being completely supportive of what you're doing. You kind of hint to them to go to Mass a little more here and there? Or is it a touchy subject?
Still a touchy subject. For me. My youngest sister, she's the one who's like getting them to Mass sometimes. Yeah, she's closer to them than I am.
Have you seen any effect on your siblings, your whole discernment process, going in and out? Do you think it helped them with their relationship with God?
My youngest sister, I'm closest to. We have great private conversations about prayer, and she asked me about different things about the Catholic faith. That's what I liked, really, because when I was in the police department, when I was a police officer, my friends would ask me about the law and stuff like that. Like,
yes, yeah.
Can you help me out with the speeding ticket, stuff like that? And I never got questions about Catholic stuff. Like my last year then in the police department, when I was learning more about the Catholic faith, I was hoping for people to ask me about the Catholic faith.
Yes.
I was like, I'm ready. I can answer some of your questions now. I read some of the catechism. I read some Bible. I feel good.
You wanted to have those conversations.
Yeah, I wanted to have those conversations, prayer life and all that stuff. But can you get me out of speeding tickets? And then when I was in the seminary, people then asked me about the prayer life, and I got to help lead my home parish's young adult group. So that was really awesome. It was just like walking with these guys and these men and women in their discernment, in their faith. And I liked being asked about the Catholic faith. I found great joy when answering those questions. Not so much, how many people can can fit in the car before it becomes illegal or something, like things like that. It's like,
in St. Edward, what is your responsibility as liturgy director? What does a liturgy director do?
So I help coordinate with the priest and deacons on the mass, maybe different things that happen in the mass, like First Communion or the bigger masses like Christmas and Easter, of course, Holy Week, stuff like that.
What do you coordinate? What do you?
So I train altar servers, make sure the volunteers know what they're doing, like the sacristans, the ushers, and
so you make sure that everything goes the way it's supposed to go.
Yes,
more or less. Okay.
And then when COVID hit, so basically I've been there for 3 years, so I never really had a normal year there. My first year, I was still learning. I was still like getting the ropes, learning about the people, learning about the parish, learning about what Father wanted, stuff like that.
Then COVID hits.
And then COVID hits. I'm like, all right, so all that's out the window. Now I have to deal in the chaos. You know, like learning how to live stream was a big thing. That was very challenging.
And the directive from the archdiocese?
Yeah. Trying to get that all in line with what the archdiocese wanted and what the pastor wanted as well. So telling people to keep the mask on, training volunteers to inform people to keep the mask on, doing all the whole social distancing stuff.
Yes. And the uncertainty and the fear and all of that.
Yeah. So I've always dealt in chaos. Seems like the whole time I'm there. It's always dealing in the chaos. And probably good that I got a little something from the police department and applied it in parish life.
Dealing with the chaos?
Yeah, dealing with the chaos and with a clear mind and trying to navigate my way through different situations in the parish.
Do you still find yourself having to compartmentalize some things sometimes?
Yeah.
Just to stay focused on the job?
Yeah. And for some weird reason, like I'm still using my police skills in the parish life.
Really? Like how?
So last week, someone came up to the parish office. I just finished with the clergy meeting with all the priests and deacons to try and coordinate the liturgy with them. And then as we were leaving, this guy comes up and he's like, "Hey, can I talk to a priest?" I'm like, "Okay, about what? What do you need the priest for?" And he's like, "I want to make a confession because I want to kill myself."
Oh boy!
All right. So I got to talk him out of it and all that stuff. But I utilized what I've learned from the police department in that situation. So different things.
So you talked to him a little bit, and you were able to use your, what you've learned in the wow. Yeah. And then in that situation, does somebody go running for the priest, and do you talk to them together, or how does that?
So I determined that he didn't really need to talk to a priest at that moment.
Okay.
I told him, you can make an appointment. The priest's not here anyway.
So it wasn't that urgent.
It wasn't that urgent. Okay. It was
after talking to him for a while.
Yeah.
Wow. Did you find yourself going into like a certain police mode, into a crisis mode? Is that why you? Wow.
Yeah. It was like my training came back to me. It was just keep him calm, talk to him, get his first name, just listen to him.
Try not to trigger him into doing anything drastic. Wow. Yeah.
Try not to say like it's your fault or what are you thinking? Why you want to do that? Stuff like accusatory statements.
Oh yeah.
Avoid those. Just listen.
Yeah, because I would assume that as a police officer, you go through a lot of crisis management training, things to avoid, things to say and not to say, to trigger that person into escalating.
Yeah, wow. I did plenty of that in the police department, talking to mentally ill people. And when I was talking to this guy here at a couple of weeks ago, last week, it was.
Wow.
After that, he said, "Well, thank you. It was good talking. It was a good talk."
He just needed someone to talk to, huh?
Yeah, that was it.
Wow.
Because I even asked them like, "How are you going to kill yourself?" Because if they give you a specific, like
they've really thought about it.
Yeah, they really thought like I have a weapon in my car right now. I'm going to use it on myself after I talk to you. It's like, okay, well, that's an emergency. Like I got to call the police. You got to go to the hospital or something.
Somebody goes running for a priest and a counselor or something. Yeah. Wow. Okay.
But he didn't have a specific plan. So
I just realized you have a very unusual skill set, huh? You've got that police training, you've got the seminarian training.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I am unusual, yes.
Very unique, very unique. What advice would you have towards a young person who is discerning, entering religious life, the priesthood, sisterhood, or any of that? What advice would you have for them?
Like discerning to get in?
Discerning to get into religious life.
If you're going to discern to get in, to go into the seminary or to the religious life, yeah, give it your 100%, give it your all. That's the only way you know if God is calling you to that particular religious life or the priesthood or seminary or whatever. Give it your 100%. Give it your all. Because if you don't, and if you're just attached to your past, or to keep thinking about if you should have done that or should have done that differently or should have done this, should have chose that career or should have. Don't worry about any of that. That would be sorted later. But give it your 100% when you go in. I think that would be my advice. So
if it's not meant for you, it'll come out that it's not meant for you, but at least you gave it your 100%. So that's what you're saying. So go in, give it 100%. If it's not meant for you, God will show that it's not meant for you, huh?
Yeah, I read this book by Henry Nouwen. It's called Discernment. But he said you have to give it your 100%. That's the only way you'll know that it's God's will. If you don't give it your all, then you'll be distracted and you won't know. And that was from my experience as well.
What book was that?
I think it was called Discernment by Henry Nouwen. One of those discernment books.
Do you recommend that book for anybody who's thinking of discerning? Or if they're already in the process?
Yeah, if they're already in the process, I think that would be a good book. There's some other books too, but I'm drawing a blank.
Let us know when you think about it, and we'll put it in.
Okay.
We'll put it in the in like description or the comments or something for the episode. Well, we thank you so much for coming in, telling your story, for being open about your feelings when it came to the whole discernment process, and thank you for traveling down here as well. And we wish you the best of luck with you and your family.
Yeah, thank you. This is a great ministry. Thank you for having me.
The pleasure's all ours. Yeah.